What is going on, everybody? This is episode 11 of Let's Be Frank with your host, Frank Mattis, brought to you by the Old City Sports Network. And we have a lot of things on the docket today. We have, obviously, the Sixers starting the season tonight without Joel Embiid and Paul George, unfortunately. The Flyers lose 5 straight, and the Eagles finally win a game very comfortably against the woeful New York Giants. And I'll also preview the matchup against the Bengals. So usually I talk about the Eagles because it's Eagle season, and that usually takes precedent in the city. But I want to get all the negative and talk about what is going on with the Philadelphia 76ers. Obviously, Joel Embiid will miss tonight and miss the rest of the week's games. Paul George is out with a bone bruise on his knee. Don't know how long he's going to be out for. It doesn't seem like too long. But same old shit, different day. Same old shit, different year. Yeah, man, this is what they paid for in Joel Embiid. And listen, as a player, there's no question that he, when healthy, is one of the most dominant players in the NBA. And given his personality and what he brings to the team and the city, he's a hard guy to root against, right? And I think we can all agree with that. And I like Joel Embiid as a player. I mean, how can you not? He's dominant, but he's always hurt, and that's a problem. As great as he is, as dominant as he is, he always gets hurt. And I know it's an 82-game season. It's early in the season, but it's the same shit, man. It's the same old garbage every single year with this guy. And you can't rely on a guy like that. Everything is so contingent on Joel Embiid's health year in and year out. And this is 11 seasons of this. We're on season 11 of Joel Embiid. And no Eastern Conference Finals to show for it, mind you. And the most hardened Joel Embiid supporters, and I have a handful of friends that are diehard Joel Embiid fans and always defend him no matter what. They can't defend this. They have nothing to say because they're tired of it. And you cannot rely on a guy who is always hurt at the wrong time. Now, obviously, it's the first game of the season, so it's not technically the end of the world, but the injuries just continue to pile up. And when you are in year 11 and you have all that wear and tear, and you play as hard as he plays when he's available, it's not going to get any better. It's just not going to get any better. And candidly, the Sixers should have never extended him. They should have traded him. And it's an unfortunate fact of life, but it's not working with him. It's just not. The guy's just not available, and everything is so contingent on his health. And we have to hear year in and year out, oh, well, you have to understand he wasn't healthy in this situation. Well, that's the problem. That's always the problem. Mind you, he had that atrocious Game 7 a year ago or 2 years ago against the Boston Celtics, who, by the way, look like world beaters again. Obviously, they took care of the New York Knicks, the revamped New York Knicks last night. So they're not getting any worse. They're only going to get better. And that's another team, that we've always had to deal with, and that's always given us problems. And when Joel Embiid doesn't play, it obviously magnifies. So, yeah, man, like it's the same old BS every single year with this guy. He's just never available. And I think they were better off trading him. As good as he is, you could have gotten him. You could have gotten really good value for him. You could have gotten, you could have got a litany of suitors throughout the league. You could have gotten, whether it was a litany of draft picks, whether it was all-star caliber players. You could have gotten that in exchange for Joel Embiid. It's just not working, and it's not going to work. You think Joel Embiid is only going to get healthier and is only going to be more available? Like, guys, this is a recipe for failure. The inevitability of him crashing and burning in Philadelphia is very high, and it sucks for me to say this. I don't take any joy. Let me be clear about this. I am not some Joel Embiid hater, but we have to address the facts. This is year 11, and this guy is always hurt. And we have to hear the same old BS every year. Oh, well, Frank, he's hurt. That's the problem. And all the Joel Embiid stands, all the Joel Embiid defenders cannot defend this. Whether it's my friends, whether it's fans, they can't defend this. It's indefensible. He can never stay healthy. And yeah, I understand when he is healthy, he's great. And it's fun to watch. And he's a great personality and he's funny. He's a troll. It's not working. This is year 11. He can't stay healthy. It's only going to get worse with time. What don't people understand? What doesn't Daryl Morey understand? Why did you give all that money to that guy? Why? As good as he is, he cannot stay healthy. And it's the same old shit. Same old shit. And you also got another injury-prone guy and Paul George, who's also out, who's, 34 years old? And it was really interesting because I was listening to WIP yesterday. I was listening to the afternoon show. And Ike Reese was saying, do you think we can get 55 games out of Embiid, Maxey, and Paul George? And Spike Gaskin was basically like, nah, you're probably going to get 30 to 35. What? You think that's a winning formula? You think that's going to help with playoff seeding? 30 to 35 games with the big three? Like, what are we talking about here? That's not sustainable. And God forbid they're not healthy come the playoffs. Like, how do you think that's going to look? 30 games with these guys? That's all we can muster up? That's not a recipe for success. Let me just say this. If you have loved ones or you have a significant other that's a diehard Sixers fan, whatever you do not buy them Sixers tickets for Christmas because you don't know when these guys are going to be available and when these guys are going to play. You have to monitor this every single day. Is Embiid going to play? Is Paul George going to play? Is it a back-to-back? Which back-to-back game is it going to be the first game or the second game that Joel can't play? Don't buy them Sixers tickets for Christmas. I'm telling you that right now. You got to monitor this on a daily basis. And listen, we all know that regular season basketball clearly doesn't mean what it once was. And I understand load management. I'm not completely against it. I get it in theory. You want to make sure that these guys are 100% come the playoffs. But the load management has gotten completely out of control. 60 games we're talking about for Joel Embiid, 60 to 65. It's probably going to be lower now because you have no idea how long he's going to be out for. It's just ridiculous, dude. It's absolutely ridiculous. We're talking about the same old bullshit year in, year out with this team. And you can tell, man, you can tell that the Sixers fatigue is real. People are tired of it. They were already tired of the lack of playoff success with this team. And, the regular season, like I said, doesn't really matter. But, with Paul George in the fold, people were a lot more curious to see, how all the pieces were going to pan out with Embiid, with Maxey, and now Paul George. So there was at least a little bit more interest in the regular season this year. But with the injuries, it's like the same old crap again. And who wants to invest into this? Who? Like, why? It's maddening. It's absolutely maddening. And again, I'm not a Joel Embiid hater. I like Joel Embiid. I have his t-shirt jersey. I love watching him play. He's dominant. He is awesome. But it's always contingent on his health. And also his lack of playoff success. And think about all the different permutations with the starting lineups over the years. Think about guys like Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris and J.J. Redick and Al Horford and Josh Richardson and James Harden, and it goes on and on and on. When is this and all the different coaches, Brett Brown, Doc Rivers, now Nick Nurse, it's not working. It's not going to work. He is only going to get more injury prone as time goes on. You should have never given. You should have been proactive and ahead of the curve and traded him when his value was at an all-time high in 2023 when he won the MVP. And now it looks like we're stuck with this. And hopefully he can stay healthy. Like, again, I cannot stress same old shit, different year. I cannot stress it. They should have traded him. I know it's an unpopular opinion because he's such a great player and he's a likable guy, but he's not available. He's just not when you need him. And like last year in the postseason, oh, well, he was hurt. Well, that's the problem. That's the problem. And people are starting to come around to the fact that, yeah, like this isn't sustainable. So, yeah, that's what we're dealing with. They're only a 3.5-point dog despite having Joel and Paul George out, which is kind of interesting because Milwaukee is another team that's getting a little older, but they still have talent. But that's interesting, obviously. But yeah, man, it's still talking about the same old shit. I was talking to my dad. He was laughing out loud when I told him Joel Embiid was out because he's just so dumbfounded by how injury prone he is. It's maddening. And speaking of maddening, let's talk about the Flyers. Not good. Not good at all. They lose 5 straight. They have only mustered 1 goal in all of their home games so far. And listen, 1 shorthanded goal is really bad. You give up 2, that is just borderline unforgivable. I mean, my God, Zamola, what are you doing, dude? What are you doing? This is the worst defense in all of the NHL. I've never seen a more just atrocious defense than what the Flyers have, especially on their power play, which is supposed to be an opportunistic moment for these guys. And instead, it's a liability. They're worse. I mean, like, the defense just continuously plagues this team game in and game out. It's hard to read whether or not, it's goaltending that's a problem. I don't think it is. I think it's our defense. There's only so much this goaltending situation can muster, whether it's Urson. It's just not good defensively. I mean, it's a huge problem. And then when we finally get a goal from Sanheim in the third period, they squander it. And it's like, there we go again. We finally get momentum, and then boom. Yeah, it's not looking good so far. And the fans are getting really restless. And, this was supposed to be a very promising season for the Flyers. And there are some good things. Obviously, Matvei Michkov got an assist. And he's second amongst points among rookies. So obviously he's showing out a bit. So, I mean, there's that. Obviously, he was the one silver lining at the very least that people were looking forward to this year. He's starting to live up to it and living up to the hype a bit. But the rest of the team, man, it's just unacceptable. They're just not opportunistic enough. They're just not putting shots on net. And when you score and it's only 2-1 game in the third period, and you squander a goal just like that, it's just like, what are we doing? And, I was talking to a handful of people who are connected with the Flyers. Obviously, Flyers Alley is very connected with the Flyers. And I asked them, like, so if this continues, is Tortorella going to be here in a month? Like, is he going to get canned? And it looks like he's not going anywhere. They're very much beholden to his contract. If anything, it's going to be somebody in the front office that might go. But that's what we're looking at right now. And I know it's early, and I know there's other teams in bad situations, but they are last in their division, which is not good. And this is not what we signed up for. I know it was tough, coming out the gate on the road against some pretty good West Coast teams. But this homestand so far has been an absolute joke. And the Flyers fans are getting really restless. And there was a buzz in the city. This buzz can go away really quickly, and you're starting to see that. So, yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know. there's really not a ton of positives with this team right now, and it looks like Tortorella's not going anywhere. And yeah, man, it's rough. So, but it is early. It is only 6 games in, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all, and something needs to change. I don't know what. Their defensive philosophy is just not working. It is really hard to watch this team play defense. It's pathetic. It's a really rough watch. This team's a rough watch. Offensively, they can't get anything going. Obviously, the defense takes precedent in terms of what's going poorly for this team, but the offensive production's just not there either. There's just not a lot of opportunities. They're not opportunistic enough. You should tops when you're on a power play, not be a liability. It's and then goaltending is not great. But then again, who really knows what if they had a good defense and taking the pressure off of them. So not looking good for the Fly guys. Not looking good. And before I get into the Eagles, who, believe it or not, are a positive force in the city, I want to let you know about our sponsor, Warlord Beard Oil. If you go to www.warlordbeardoil.com and use the promo code OLDSPORTS, you get 15% off your beard products. And if you spend $65 or more, you will get free shipping. So if you go over to www.warlordbeardoil.com and use the promo code OLDSPORTS, you get 15% off site-wide. And if you spend $65 or more, you will get free shipping. So let them know that your boy Frank sent you. So let's talk about the Eagles. Man, it feels good to finally win comfortably, doesn't it? Solid win, obviously. Listen, the Giants are an absolute dumpster fire and a joke. And Joe Shane and John Mara need to be, evaluated for letting Saquon Barkley walk. A guy that, not only just letting him walk, but paying Daniel Jones, who is just an absolute joke of a quarterback, a starting quarterback, that is, in the NFL, and they give him the bag instead of Saquon, who is an absolute force to be reckoned with. It's crazy to me. Joe Shane should have been fired immediately after the game. Just what are you doing? Why would you look at Saquon Barkley and what he's done for your organization, and forget about what he does on the field. Off the field, he's a model citizen and a great guy, and a great teammate. Obviously, there was a clip that circulated of Nick Sirianni asking him, "Hey, do you want to potentially get your career high in rushing yards?" And he said, "No, I want the young guys to eat. Let them get opportunities." And you want guys like that on your team. He's not only a great player, but he's an awesome teammate. Hello. Why don't you make that the centerpiece of your franchise? And I know running backs, the value has gone down, but this year in free agency, it sort of made a comeback because of the weak draft, because there were so many premium running backs on the market, and because salary cap went up. That kind of played a factor in running backs getting the bag for the first time in a while. But Saquon Barkley's just so friggin' good, and he's back. And when you put a good offensive line in front of him, he's just a force to be reckoned with. This year you take out Derrick Henry, he's the best running back in football by far with a bullet. So why they let him go and saw that Daniel Jones deserves the bag after 1 year, even though he only threw 15 touchdowns, you think that guy deserved the bag because he carved up a garbage Minnesota Vikings defense and then got absolutely slaughtered by the Philadelphia Eagles in the postseason, which clearly was fool's gold in that Vikings game. And obviously they made changes there, and the Vikings defense is much better now. But the fact that they got fooled by that is just, that's just front office malpractice. But, he obviously made them pay, and, he ran wild and just absolutely took the soul out of that team. And, that's got to be the formula going forward. I know that they spent a lot of money on, wide receivers. They gave Jalen Hurts the bag. But listen, man, you got to do what you got to do to win. And if you want to prevent being in a dogfight, running the ball is your best bet. And we need to see more of this. And listen, like you look at Jalen Hurts' numbers, they weren't great, but they don't have to be great. It's, it is what it is. Sometimes you just got to find what works and then stick with it. So, I'm okay with games that look like that, especially games that are won comfortably and you can take out your starters, because we haven't seen that in a while. And we thought we were going to see that in the Cleveland game. We didn't, but we saw it in the Giants game, and it paid dividends. I mean, you had 269 yards rushing. Saquon obviously had 176. Kenny Gainwell got in, did some nice things. He had 56 yards. So yeah, I mean that we need to see a little bit more of that. And I've said it all year, even if you are down and your defense is struggling, just run the football. Give them more time to regroup and recuperate on the sidelines, and you'll be fine. Like, you could still, even when you're down, obviously you would want to throw the ball more, because you want to have that sense of urgency if you're down a couple scores. But to me, I you have Saquon Barkley, you're giving him the bag. You also have Kenny Gainwell, who can do some nice things. You have Jalen Hurts as a dual threat quarterback. On the football, AJ's going to get his. He had that great touchdown, which was a good ball by Jalen Hurts, and then obviously AJ got separation at the end and scored on that fourth down for a touchdown. They'll get his. Sometimes you'll also put up really bad numbers like Devontae Smith, who had literally -2 yards receiving. But that happens, but getting your numbers should not be the thing that takes precedent for these guys. It should be wins. Because they got their numbers last year. They set records last year. AJ, and I like AJ, but you got to read the room, dude. And when you say things like, I want to eat too, you did eat, bro. You had a touchdown and you had 5 catches for 89 yards, and you won the game comfortably. I mean, Devontae Smith had a catch for -2 yards and you didn't hear him bitch. So listen, I get it. Wide receivers, they want the ball, and when you give them the ball, they do great things. Obviously, like they did a week prior with AJ and Devontae pretty much bailing the team out against the Browns. But there's going to be games that look like this, and they just have to reconcile with that. But AJ got his. You got yours, dude. You got five catches, 89 yards, and a touchdown, bro. It's all good. And your team won, and they won comfortably. So read the room a little bit, bro. I love AJ. I've only been to 3 NFL football games. He's the best football player I've ever seen play. I was at the game last year in FedEx Field when he made the one-handed catch, and my jaw dropped. I was in awe of his greatness. I'm a huge AJ Brown fan. But read the room, dude. You got yours, and ultimately your team got the W. So relax a bit. All right. Couple takeaways from the game. The Giants' offensive line, it was just absolutely putrid, and our defensive line reaped the rewards for it. Nolan Smith keeps getting better, man. I don't know if he's going to be a Pro Bowl caliber guy that's going to get you double-digit sacks, but I'm seeing improvement by the guy. I really am. And we also got a Bryce Huff sighting for once. Finally, it took 6 games, but we finally got a Bryce Huff sighting. So good for him. Hopefully this means more on the horizon for him. Kobe Dean, man, he is an absolute monster when it comes to blitzing, and that's going to be key going forward. In terms of utilizing him, he was a game wrecker in that game, especially blitzing. So good on him. And going into this game, Malik Neighbors kind of scared me a bit, but he didn't really do much. I mean, he only had 4 catches for 41 yards. And to be honest with you, Daniel Jones couldn't get anything going because our D-line was in his face. So, it was great to see our defensive line take care of business. It was great, to see this team as a whole take care of business. Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. How he hit home runs here. So far, so good in terms of this draft. And also, Jalen Sunk got a sack. So our draft picks and our rookies showed out in this game in a big way. I know it's against the Giants, but still, I'm seeing progress from Mitchell and DeJean. I mean, those two guys are going to be mainstays here for quite some time, and they're only going to get better. And kudos to them. And it was a really good game from this team. It was a very promising win because they won comfortably, and that's what you got to do. You only play who you play on your schedule, and when you take care of business like that, and you can be in cruise control for the rest of the game, that's how you get it done. And kudos to these guys. Really the only negative was it was another first quarter with no points. You definitely want to get better at that, but they made up for it for the rest of the game, and they did some nice things. So, good on them. Juergens had a tough time early on with Dexter Lawrence, but Dexter Lawrence is one of the elite pass rushers, D tackles in all football. Fred Johnson struggled early on, but they settled in. Obviously, the run along the sidelines from Saquon, where Juergens pulled out, looked very reminiscent of Jason Kelce. He's a player, man. He's a really good player, and I like what I'm seeing from him. He weathered the storm early on against an elite D tackle. I mean, he's probably not going to face another D tackle as good as Dexter Lawrence throughout the rest of the year. So. It's a good learning lesson to weather the storm, go up against a guy like him, and sort of take notes on how to defend a guy like him going forward. So pretty good stuff by this team this week. It's nice to win comfortably. It's nice to not want to pull your hair out watching an Eagles game and being in a dogfight against a completely inferior opponent. So kudos to them for taking care of business. And kudos to Nick Sirianni for taking care of business. I know he was raked over the coals, and rightfully so. But he got this team, playing up and playing well against an inferior opponent and taking advantage and destroying a woeful New York Giants team. But this week's going to be tough because the last 2 weeks, they were going up against bottom 5 quarterbacks in Deshaun Watson and Daniel Jones. Now they're going up against a top 5 quarterback. And the Bengals offense is really good. They're 14th in total yards. They're 8th in passing. They're 10th, but they are 28th in rushing, so that can bode well for the Eagles. Jamar Chase is obviously one of the elite receivers in the league. T. Higgins, one of the best wide receiver 2s in the league, and then you got Joe Burrow, who's starting to get on a roll and starting to play like the Joe Cool that we all know. And they are a better team than what their record reflects. And it's going to be a very interesting test for the Eagles because again, it's night and day from the previous 2 weeks to now when you're going up against one of the elite quarterbacks in the league. But I think they can get it done. I really do. Like I mentioned, they're 28th in rushing, so that should not be an issue. They start to implement more blitzing. Vic Fangio is starting to implement more blitzing. I think they found a nice role there with Nakobe Dean. The pass rush is starting to get after it. Nolan Smith's getting better. Bryce Huff's getting better. You have BG, obviously. Oh, Josh Sweat, by the way. Is he not the most underrated Eagle on the team? I mean, we talk about AJ, Devontae, Jalen Hurts, Saquon, the offensive line, guys like Jalen Carter, Kenyon Mitchell, Josh Sweat at BG. Josh Sweat, to me, has been one of the most slept on Philadelphia Eagles. He's a very balanced defensive edge rusher. He can obviously rush the passer, but he's one of the better edge setters on the team. He doesn't really get a whole lot of love. And I'm really starting to see him get the love that he deserves, and he should get it because he's been a very underrated Eagle. I mean, the year when we went to the Super Bowl, he had 11 sacks, and it didn't really seem like he got a whole lot of love for that. But he's been a really good player for us, and a guy that keeps getting better. And I kind of feel for him because there's been a lot of talk about his health. Some of the injuries he's accumulated have affected him, and some believe he doesn't have a long shelf life and doesn't have a ton left in the game. But this year, he's healthy, he's productive. He's one of the more underrated Eagles, and I think people got to put respect on his name. And the D line as a whole, like I said, is starting to come along, and I think that's going to be key against an inferior offensive line. So they should like their matchups there. So this is a very winnable game, and if they can stymie or weather the storm that is Joe Burrow, and they can get out of Cincinnati with a W, I feel good about this team going forward because the NFC is crazy right now. Obviously, the NFC North is the murderer's row of the NFC in a lot of ways. They all look good, but we do have a win over the Packers, which is very encouraging and good going forward. The San Francisco 49ers are a mess with injuries. The NFC West is sort of wide open. Seattle is an interesting team. They obviously have really good playmakers, but that's pretty much it there. The Rams are just decimated with injuries as well, like the 49ers. And then, you look at the NFC South. Unfortunately for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're going to be without Chris Godwin for the future. And then Mike Evans is going to be out to week 12. Atlanta is sort of hit or miss. They should have lost to us. So they probably would have had they should have a losing record to begin with. The Saints are coming down to earth. Another team decimated with injuries. So there's a lot of teams decimated with injuries. And then if you look at our division, forget about the Giants. They're an absolute joke. The Cowboys, I don't really see them getting better on the horizon. You have the coaches, you have Mike McCarthy going back and forth with Troy Aikman. So the morale there is not great. Unless they get a running back or somebody else in the trade deadline, you can pretty much kiss that season goodbye. And then the Commanders, who, are 5-2 on the top of the division, are without Jaden Daniels. And that's something you got to monitor because, he obviously looks really good and is going to be a problem for many years to come, but he is a slender guy. And he's going to be out, for a bit here. So, things are wide open for the Eagles in this conference, in this division. And, if they can weather the storm and Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean can continue to ascend and get better, they're going to get tested this week with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins for sure. But if they can weather the storm, to me, this is going to be a high-scoring game, by the way. Let's look at the spread of this game, shall we? Because to me, this has got take the over written all over it. Oh, wow. It's only 46.5. Oh, yeah, definitely take the over here for sure because they're going to score – both teams are going to score a lot of points. But I think the Eagles can win this game, 38-35, I think sounds about right. Especially with their defense being as bad. So they're going to get opportunities there, whether it's throwing the ball, running the ball. And ideally, you like the matchups there, right? You want to, take advantage of their weak defense, getting AJ and Devontae involved. And then, hopefully close out the game with Saquon. But if you got to run the ball and, it's working for you, stick to it, man. These guys, I think Devontae gets it. Like Devontae, easily been pissed off having a catch for -2 yards. But he'll do anything to win, man. And, AJ, I think AJ, I think some of the criticism is overstated. Obviously he wants the ball. But, I think he's gonna realize that, hey, man, sometimes it's not there, and we got to stick to what's working. And but it's not like he didn't get his. Like again, 5 catches, 89 yards, and touchdowns is not bad at all. Obviously he can go for 150 and multiple touchdowns, but sometimes that's just not in the cards. And I think he's a good teammate, but at the same time, you got to kind of read the room a bit and you know, take what the defense gives you, and take what take advantage of the defense and their holes. So hopefully he gets the memo this week, and I like you don't want to not get him involved. Like, let's make no mistake about that. But at the same time, if it's going to be a Saquon game, let him eat, because last week it was yours. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. There's a lot of mouths to feed on this offense, believe you. So hopefully somebody said to him, like, hey man, like we'll make sure you get yours, but sometimes it's going to be another guy's game. And AJ, I think he's a talker, and he wants his, but he has shown from time to time that he's willing to take a back seat. So hopefully he gets that memo again. But if he's featured in the game plan, great, because he's awesome, and I have him on my fantasy team, and he's been helping me tremendously. So that will conclude our show today. Hopefully the Sixers can weather the storm with these injuries. Hopefully Joel Embiid can get back as soon as possible, because yeah, man, this is same shit, different year, man. It's really unfortunate that we're still in the same spot like we are for the last couple years. And the Flyers need to get their heads out of their ass. Defensively, they need to have a come to Jesus meeting, because it's not good. But we do have our Eagles, who are on a run, and they have a good matchup this week in some areas, but they have to prepare and weather the storm that is Joe Burrow. So some good things on the horizon. I will catch you guys later, and go Eagles.